All right, so day two. It's actually the night before Christmas Eve, and finishing up the Glogg. They're in the other room trimming the tree at the moment, and it's time for me to finish this up. So first thing I want to do is I want to add the port, and then I want to just fire up the heat here. And again, I'm going to bring it up to about 170 degrees. This is what it looks like right now. You can see there's still some of the fruit floating. Still got the yummy goodness in there. And we'll heat it up and be ready to go. Okay, so we added the port to the Glogg. We're reheating it. Goal temperatures somewhere around 170. We're above 160 now, and you start seeing things moving around in there now. That's when it's getting to where it's almost ready. I'll check the temperature here. Almost at 170. But what I want to watch and show you is over in this section here, you can start seeing the little bubbles start to form, what I've been calling a froth. That doesn't start appearing until the Glogg gets right to that 170 degree range on the second day. That's that key indicator that lets you know that you're almost where you want to be. So you can see over in here there's little bubble pads starting to show up, and that's your key. It's the thing that you watch for. If you don't have a thermostat or thermometer, you can watch those bubbles, and as soon as those bubbles get there and start to turn frothy, you know you've got it at the right temperature. So there's some kind of chemical reaction that happens somewhere at that 170 degrees that allows the bubbles to start. So we're at 170, 172, somewhere right in there now, and you can see that foam is on there. I'll give it a couple more degrees, and then I'll turn it off. I'll let it cool, and then we'll take all the fruit and stuff out, and then we'll need to strain it through to filter out all of the stuff that isn't Glogg, and set that aside, eat it, and bottle the rest, drink it hot, have a Merry Christmas or whatever you happen to be celebrating when it's cold outside. So there's your foam right in there. That means that it's time. So I'm going to go ahead and shut that off. And I will rejoin you guys when it's time to pull the fruit out of there. All right, so it's Christmas morning. It's really cold out there. What? It's all right. Alright, so it's Christmas morning. This has been sitting here for a couple days. I was thinking about doing it yesterday, didn't get to it. It's alright. It's sat here for a couple days. It's really been given that opportunity for all that yumminess to come out. Now what we have, let me show you. We had, originally you had all that fruit floating. Well, that fruit has had a chance to settle out. And now what we have is all that fruit that has absorbed the wine and the transferring of flavors. So the fruit's going to taste strongly of wine, and it's going to have a little bit of alcohol content. So one of the things that I like to do is to have a little bit of that fruit. It's Christmas Day. We've got some friends coming over. Maybe I'll put some of this out for them to just nibble on and enjoy that part of the flavor. It's pretty good. I really like the almonds. Probably the best. But of course the raisins are good too. And you really should try a little bit of everything. I don't know, you probably don't have to eat the cinnamon sticks. But this is what your oranges end up looking like. And if you eat them, It's pretty good stuff. But anyway, that's beside the point. What we need to do is we need to get all that out. And if you remember, there's the cardamom and the cloves. So we're going to need to strain that out too, because you don't want that stuff sitting in the bottle of the Glogg. So what we're going to need to do now is go through a kind of a two-step process. The first step is to get that big stuff out of there. The second step is to filter it. So we'll run it through, the recipe originally called for a paper towel. I'm thinking you could run it through a coffee filter, anything like that that lets the fluid through but filters out the bigger particles. So we'll do that and get it all on here for you to see. All right, so we've got the Glogg. At this point it's room temperature. Temperature, it doesn't matter too much, except for if it's too hot you don't want to burn yourself. Just going to do this the easy way. I need to move a bunch of fruit out of there. I'm going to start with just kind of shoveling some of that out of there. Get the big chunks out there. And then we'll strain it off. So it gives you a chance to smell it, appreciate it, maybe grab a prune or two along the way. Okay, so you've got all that fruit in there, and whoops, I just made a mess. That's the whole point of this, is just letting that drain off. So we'll just clean up that mess as we go. And what I want to do is I want to take that fruit and I'm going to store it in a bowl so that we can share it later. I always have plans for using that fruit for something, but honestly I don't usually get around to using it in cooking or baking or anything like that. I've always thought that it would be good as a mixture for like a fruit cake or something like that, but I don't know how to make fruit cakes, and when I've tried using it in breads and such, it just hasn't really turned out the way I hoped it would. So now I'm just going to pour all of this. And I don't want to pour all that little stuff at the bottom, because then we'll just have to strain it out again later. So you can see it on the edge of the pan, the cloves and the cardamoms and the little bits and pieces that have been included in the mix. So the less of that we bring to the next stage, the better. So I'm just going to take an add of that in there. And you can see there's a whole lot of little stuff that was going to have to be filtered out that we've gotten rid of. So now we go to the process of filtering this out. Now, in the past I've used a paper towel and a colander, and that works pretty well, but it's really slow. I think a coffee filter might be a better way to go, just to get faster. But what you don't want to do is put it through the filter in the thing that you make your coffee in, because then you're going to have that coffee flavor. So I'm going to look around and we're going to figure out exactly what to use. Be back in a minute. Okay, so I had a look around the kitchen, and what we did is we came up with some ideas. And this is either going to be a brilliant idea video or an epic fail video. We'll see in just a minute. But that's one of the things about working in a kitchen, is you have to experiment. So what I did is I got my my flour sifter, and I just put a coffee filter in there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to filter that, and I'm not going to pour it straight from here because that just probably be too much. So I just got a little pitcher here, and I'm just going to pour that through the coffee filter and see what it does. Oh, it looks like it's going to be a win. Just got to make sure the filter doesn't bend over. One of the problems I've always faced in the past with this is when you do it through a paper towel, it takes a long time to sort it through. Doing it through cheesecloth doesn't filter out all those fine particles. So we're trying to get a fairly clear liquid in here without a lot of particles in it. So the purpose of a coffee filter is to let the fluid through and keep the solids in it. And so it's a relatively slow process. This has got a lot of viscosity to it. It's a fairly thick liquid, so it takes a little time to go through there. And it's going to be a slow process, I can see. But you know what, that's okay. We're not in a hurry. One should not get in a hurry if you're making glug. So we'll just let that sit there, and every once in a while I'll pour a little bit extra in there. We'll let that filter out. I think this is going to work better than the paper towel thing. I'll show you what it looks like. I'll move the camera over here. But when you're doing this, you got some time on your hand. And one of the basic rules of a kitchen is you should never trust somebody who doesn't try their own cooking. So, you know, this gives us a chance to test the fruit, see how it's going. Don't test too much of the fruit if you've got to drive. Or, frankly, if there's any reason you shouldn't be completely sober, because it does have a bit of the alcohol in it. Let me show you what that looks like. And this is going fairly slow, so here's my setup. There's the fruit, and this is slowly draining through. Okay, deferring to the master here. The coffee pot through the strainer thing looked like a good idea, but it's epically slow. The filter gets clogged with stuff. It just becomes too slow, so I'm going to go defer to the master. He said pour it through a colander, through a paper towel. That gives a lot more surface area for it to make its way through. So we're going to go back to the old-fashioned way. Problem is you lose a bit to the paper towel, but not that much. Look at that. That's the stuff you don't want. And so with that, I'm going to get a cup and we'll see what we got. I'm not going to have a whole cup of this now. I'm just going to do enough for a taste. Fruit may be breakfast, but we don't want to have too much of this. Oh, that's lovely. Here's to you, Poppy. Wishing you all a great winter. The weather today is, oh, I think it's -3 to get today. The high is supposed to be 0 Fahrenheit. So it's a perfect day to test the glug. It happens to be Christmas Day. What I'm planning on doing is warming this up, taking a mug or two out to the hot tub and drinking it and just enjoying the whole thing like that. So you've been putting up with Doc T. We're making Swedish glug. The last step is simply to put it back into the bottle that it came from. You'll end up with a little more than a gallon, enough to put into the 2 bottles that you started with. And that'll be enough to keep you warm through most of the winter. Share it with your friends. Drink it hot. Again, this is Doc T. Peace.